when I turned my key in the lock of my own bedroom door and it wouldn't open. I knew something was terribly wrong. But when I heard my daughter-in-law's voice on the other side say, "Mom, just stay quiet, she'll go away," I felt my blood run cold. Let me take you back to where this all started, and you'll understand how someone I welcomed into my family with open arms could betray me in the most unimaginable way. My name is Me, and this is a story about family, boundaries, and what happens when kindness is mistaken for weakness. I've lived in my house for 32 years. My husband Richard and I bought it when our son Danny was just 5 years old. It's a beautiful 4-bedroom colonial on Maple Street with a garden I've tended for 3 decades and a kitchen where I've cooked thousands of family meals. Richard passed away 6 years ago, and since then, this house has been my sanctuary. Every corner holds a memory. Every room tells a story. When Danny got married to Vanessa 4 years ago, I was genuinely happy for him. She seemed like a lovely young woman, polite, well-mannered, always quick with a compliment. They had dated for 2 years before the wedding, and during that time, I made every effort to welcome her into our family. I took her shopping, taught her my son's favorite recipes, and treated her like the daughter I never had. After the wedding, they moved into an apartment about 20 minutes away. It was a nice place, a 2-bedroom in a modern complex with all the amenities young couples want. They seemed happy. Danny had a good job as an accountant, and Vanessa worked as a dental hygienist. They were building their life together, and I was proud to watch them grow. I saw them regularly. Sunday dinners at my house became a tradition. Vanessa would help me set the table, and we'd all sit together like a real family. She'd compliment my cooking, tell me stories about her patients, and laugh at Danny's jokes. Looking back now, I wonder how much of it was genuine and how much was just performance. About a year ago, Vanessa started mentioning her mother more frequently. Carol was her name. She lived in another state about 6 hours away, and according to Vanessa, she was struggling. Her father had left when Vanessa was young, and Carol had raised her alone. Now she was in her early 60s, working a low-paying retail job and barely making ends meet. "Mom, Carol is having such a hard time," Vanessa would say during our Sunday dinners. "Her apartment is in a bad neighborhood, and she's so lonely out there all by herself." I felt sympathy for the woman. I knew what it was like to be alone. I'd been widowed for 6 years by then. "Why don't you invite her to visit?" I suggested. "She's welcome here anytime." Vanessa's eyes lit up. "Really, you'd be okay with that?" "Of course," I said. Family is family. Looking back, I should have seen the shift in her expression. It wasn't gratitude, it was calculation. But at the time, I just saw a daughter-in-law who cared about her mother, and I admired that. Carol visited 3 months later. She stayed for a week in my guest room, the one at the end of the hallway with the floral wallpaper and the view of the garden. She was pleasant enough, though I noticed she didn't offer to help with meals or cleaning. She'd sit in the living room watching television while Vanessa and I cooked dinner. When I'd bring her tea, she'd accept it without looking up from her show. "Thank you," she'd say, her eyes still on the screen. I told myself she was just tired from her long drive. I told myself she was shy. I told myself a lot of things that week. After she left, Vanessa hugged me tight. "Thank you so much for having Mom," she said. It meant the world to her. "Anytime," I replied, meaning it. I didn't know then that anytime would turn into a nightmare. 2 months ago, my sister Helen called me from Arizona. She'd fallen and broken her ankle, and she was facing surgery. She lives alone, and she needed help. "Me, I hate to ask," Helen said, her voice strained with pain, "but could you come stay with me for a few days, just until I can get around on my own?" I didn't hesitate. "Of course I'm coming. You're my sister." I immediately started making arrangements. I called Danny to let him know I'd be away for about 5 days, long enough to get Helen through her surgery, and settled at home with a care plan in place. "Don't worry about anything, Mom," Danny said. "The house will be fine. We'll check on it for you." "Thank you, sweetheart," I said, relieved. "I'm leaving tomorrow morning. My flight is at 8. That evening, Vanessa and Danny came over for what I thought was a goodbye dinner. Vanessa seemed unusually interested in my travel plans, so you'll be gone for 5 full days, she asked, her tone casual as she helped me pack some meals into containers for Helen. Yes, probably. Maybe 6 if Helen needs more help, I replied, folding a sweater into my suitcase. And you're flying, not driving, flying. It's too far to drive, and Helen needs me there quickly. Vanessa nodded, that same strange look crossing her face, the one I'd seen when I first offered for Carol to visit. But I was too focused on Helen to think much about it. The next morning, I took a taxi to the airport at 5:30. My flight left on time, and by noon I was in Arizona, helping my sister navigate the shock and pain of her injury. For the next 3 days, I was completely absorbed in caring for Helen, helping her to the bathroom, preparing her meals, organizing her medications, and keeping her spirits up. On the 4th day, Helen's neighbor, a kind retired nurse named Patricia, offered to stay with her for the afternoon so I could rest. I was exhausted, and I gratefully accepted. I lay down in Helen's guest room and slept for 4 solid hours. When I woke up, I checked my phone. There were no messages from Danny or Vanessa, which I thought was a bit odd. Usually, they'd at least text to ask how Helen was doing, but I told myself they were busy with work and their own lives. That evening, as I was helping Helen into bed, she said something that changed everything. "Me, you've done so much for me. Why don't you head home tomorrow? Patricia has already said she'll check on me daily, and I'm feeling much stronger. Are you sure?" I asked, positive. "You have your own life to get back to. I'll be fine." I felt a wave of relief. As much as I loved my sister, I missed my own bed, my own routine, my own space. "All right," I said. "I'll book a flight for tomorrow afternoon." I found a flight leaving at 2 p.m., which would get me home by 8 in the evening. I texted Danny, "Helen is doing much better. Coming home tomorrow, arriving around 8 p.m. Love you." He responded almost immediately, "Great news about Aunt Helen. See you soon, Mom." Nothing in that message suggested what I was about to walk into. The next day, everything went smoothly. Helen's neighbor came over in the morning, and I said my goodbyes. My flight was on time, and I actually arrived at the airport 30 minutes earlier than expected. Instead of getting home at 8, I'd be home by 7:30. I decided not to text Danny about the earlier arrival. I'd surprise him, maybe order pizza, and we could have a nice evening catching up. The taxi dropped me off at my house at exactly 7:28 p.m. I remember checking my watch. The sun was just beginning to set, casting a golden glow over my neighborhood. My garden looked beautiful. The roses I'd planted last spring were in full bloom. I rolled my suitcase up the front walkway, fishing my keys out of my purse. That's when I noticed something odd. The living room curtains were drawn, which was unusual. I always leave them open to let in natural light. And there was a car in my driveway that I didn't recognize, a silver Honda Accord with out-of-state plates. I felt the first flutter of unease in my stomach. I put my key in the front door lock and turned it. The door opened easily. I stepped inside, pulling my suitcase behind me. "Hello," I called out. "Danny?" "Vanessa?" Silence. The house felt different, wrong somehow. There was a smell I didn't recognize. A cheap floral perfume that definitely wasn't mine. And there were things in my living room that didn't belong. There, a purple throw blanket draped over my couch, a pair of reading glasses on my coffee table, a stack of gossip magazines on my side table. My heart started beating faster. "Danny," I called again. Louder this time. I heard a sudden scurrying sound from upstairs, like footsteps trying to be quiet but failing. Then I heard whispers, urgent, panicked whispers. I left my suitcase by the door and climbed the stairs. Each step felt heavy, like I was walking through water. Something was very, very wrong. When I reached the second-floor hallway, I could hear voices clearly now. They were coming from my bedroom. I walked down the hallway, my hand trailing along the wall I'd painted myself 3 years ago. When I reached my bedroom door, I tried the handle. It was locked. I stood there for a moment, staring at the door handle in disbelief. My bedroom door didn't have a lock. Richard and I had never installed one. There had never been a need. "Hello," I said, knocking firmly. "Who's in there?" The whispers stopped abruptly. "Vanessa," I said, my voice sharper now. "Danny, what's going on?" There was a long pause, and then I heard my daughter-in-law's voice muffled through the door. "Me, you're home early." "Yes, I'm home early," I said, my hand gripping the door handle tighter. "Why is my bedroom door locked? What's going on?" Another pause. More whispers, and then another voice, one I recognized from that long visit 3 months ago. "Carol." "Vanessa, who is that?" Carol's voice said, not even bothering to whisper. My mind reeled. Carol was in my bedroom. Why, what was happening? "Vanessa, open this door right now," I said, my voice steady despite the anger rising in my chest. "Me, just give us a minute, okay?" Vanessa said. "Give you a minute? This is my house. This is my bedroom. Open the door." "Me, please, just go downstairs and we'll explain everything," Vanessa said. I felt my hands go cold. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. "Open this door now." Silence. And then I heard it. My daughter-in-law's voice, quieter now but still audible through the door. "Mom, just stay quiet. She'll go away." Those words hit me like a physical blow. She'll go away, in my own house, from my own bedroom. I stood there, my hand still on the locked door handle, and I realized that everything I thought I knew about my daughter-in-law, about my son's marriage, about the family I'd tried so hard to build, it was all a lie, and this was just the beginning. I stepped back from the door, my mind racing. I needed to think clearly. I needed to understand what was happening before I reacted. "Vanessa," I said, forcing my voice to remain calm, "I'm going to count to 10. If you don't open this door, I'm calling the police." I heard a sharp intake of breath from the other side. "Me, please don't, 1, I said. "This is ridiculous. Just give us a 2. More frantic whispering. 3, okay, just wait," Vanessa said. I heard movement inside the room. Drawers opening and closing, the rustle of fabric, footsteps. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, I heard the click of the lock. The door opened slowly. Vanessa stood there, her face flushed, her eyes avoiding mine. Behind her, I could see into my bedroom, and what I saw made my blood boil. My beautiful bedroom, the one I'd carefully decorated over the years with my favorite colors and my most treasured possessions, had been completely transformed. The bedspread I'd chosen, a soft cream quilt with delicate embroidery, had been replaced with a gaudy floral comforter I'd never seen before. My dresser was covered with bottles of cheap perfume and costume jewelry that wasn't mine. My nightstand held a stack of romance novels I'd never purchased. And sitting on my bed wearing one of my robes, was Carol. She looked up at me with an expression that can only be described as annoyed. Not embarrassed, not apologetic, annoyed that I had interrupted her. What? I couldn't even form the full question. What is going on here? Vanessa stepped aside, still not meeting my eyes. "Me, I can explain, then explain," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Explain why your mother is in my bedroom wearing my robe. Explain why my things have been moved. Explain why you locked me out of my own room." Carol stood up, tightening the belt of my robe. My favorite robe, the one my sister Helen had given me 2 Christmases ago. "Well, there's no need to be so dramatic about it," she said, her tone dismissive. I stared at her in disbelief. "Dramatic? Mom, please," Vanessa started, but Carol talked right over her. "Vanessa told me you'd be gone for 5 or 6 days. We thought we had more time to discuss this with you properly." "Discuss what with me properly?" I asked, stepping into my bedroom, and looking around at the destruction of my personal space. My closet door was open, and I could see that my clothes had been pushed to one side, making room for clothes I didn't recognize. My jewelry box, the wooden one Richard had made for me by hand, was sitting open on the dresser, and my jewelry had been removed and placed in a plastic container on the floor. "Vanessa," I said slowly, turning to face my daughter-in-law, "what have you done?" She finally looked at me, and I saw something in her eyes I'd never seen before, defiance. "Mom has been struggling," she said, her voice taking on a defensive edge. She lost her job last month, and she couldn't afford her rent. She was about to be evicted. What was I supposed to do? Let her be homeless? "So you moved her into my house, into my bedroom, without asking me." "We knew you'd say no," Vanessa said. "Those words hung in the air between us. We knew you'd say no, so they'd done it anyway. They'd waited until I was gone, dealing with my sister's emergency, and they'd moved Carol into my home without my permission." "Where's Danny?" I asked. "Does he know about this?" Vanessa's silence was answer enough. "He does, doesn't he? My son knows that you moved your mother into my house without my permission. He understands that family has to help family," Vanessa said, lifting her chin. "Then where is he? Why isn't he here?" "He's at work. He had to stay late tonight." I pulled my phone out of my pocket and dialed Danny's number. Vanessa's eyes widened. Wait. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times, then it went to voicemail. "Danny," I said, my voice shaking with controlled anger, "this is your mother. I need you to come to the house immediately. We need to talk about what your wife has done." I hung up and looked at Vanessa. "You have 30 minutes to get your mother and all of her belongings out of my bedroom." "We can't do that," Vanessa said. "Mom has nowhere else to go." "That's not my problem," I said. "You have guest rooms. She can stay in one of those." "But she will not stay in my bedroom." Carol stood up, her face flushing with anger. "Now you listen here." "No," I said, my voice sharp as a knife. "You listen. This is my house. I've owned it for 32 years. You were not invited here. You have no right to be in my bedroom, wearing my clothes, sleeping in my bed." "You have 30 minutes. I turned and walked out of the room, my whole body trembling with rage and betrayal. I went downstairs to my kitchen and sat at the table, waiting. I could hear them upstairs, arguing in harsh whispers. I couldn't make out most of the words, but I heard Carol's voice rise at one point. "I told you this was a stupid idea." 20 minutes later, Danny's car pulled into the driveway. I heard Danny's key in the front door. He walked in, and the expression on his face told me everything I needed to know. He knew. He'd known all along. "Mom," he said, and there was guilt in his voice, but also something else, resignation maybe, or frustration that I'd come home early and ruined their plan. "Sit down," I said, pointing to the chair across from me. He sat, his eyes on the table. "Look at me," I said. He raised his eyes slowly. "Did you know that your wife moved her mother into my house?" "Into my bedroom?" He opened his mouth, closed it, then nodded. "Yes." The admission was like a slap. My own son, the boy I'd raised, the man I'd sacrificed so much for, had betrayed me. "Why?" I asked, and my voice cracked on that single word. "Mom, Carol really was about to be evicted. She lost her job, and she's got some health issues that make it hard for her to work full-time." Vanessa was beside herself with worry. "We tried to find her an apartment she could afford, but everything near us is too expensive. So you decided to move her into my house without asking me?" "We were going to ask you," Danny said, "but you were dealing with Aunt Helen's emergency, and we didn't want to burden you with more problems. We thought if we just got Carol settled, you'd see that it wasn't such a big deal. Not such a big deal." I repeated, "Danny, they put her in my bedroom. They locked me out of my own room." "The lock was Carol's idea," Danny said quickly. "Vanessa told me about it, and I told her it was going too far, but Carol insisted. She said she needed privacy. Privacy in my bedroom. I know it sounds bad. It is bad, Danny. It's more than bad. It's a violation. It's disrespectful. I paused, searching for the right word. "It's betrayal." "Mom, please," Danny said, reaching across the table, but I pulled my hand away. "Did you really think I wouldn't mind?" I asked, Did you really think you could just take over my house, my space, my privacy, and I'd just accept it? We thought you'd understand once you knew Carol's situation, Danny said. You're always talking about how important family is. Well, Carol is family now. She's Vanessa's mother, which makes her my family, which makes her your family. Family respects boundaries, I said. Family asks permission. Family doesn't sneak around behind your back. At that moment, Vanessa came downstairs, her face red from crying. Carol was behind her, now dressed in her own clothes but looking sullen. Me? Vanessa said, her voice trembling, "Please, I'm so sorry. We handled this all wrong, but please, please don't kick my mom out. She has nowhere to go. She can stay in the guest room," I said, "the one at the end of the hall, the one she stayed in before." "But she leaves my bedroom now. The guest room is too small," Carol said, speaking for the first time since Danny arrived. "The master bedroom is much larger, and I need space for all my things." I turned to look at her slowly. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" I said the guest room is too small. "I've got a lot of belongings, and I need a bigger space. Besides, at my age, I deserve a nice room." "You've got this whole big house, surely you can stay in one of the smaller rooms for a while." The silence that followed was deafening. "Did you just suggest," I said, my voice dangerously quiet, "that I should move out of my bedroom in my own house so that you can have it?" "Well, when you put it that way it sounds bad, but get out." Carol blinked. "What?" "Get out of my house, now." "Mom," Vanessa started, but I held up my hand. "I've changed my mind. She's not staying in the guest room. She's not staying anywhere in this house. She has 1 hour to gather her belongings and leave." "Me, please?" Danny stood up, his voice pleading. "You too, Danny," I said, and I saw him flinch. "You're my son, and I love you, but right now, I don't want you here. Come back when you're ready to apologize and actually mean it." "This is insane," Carol said. "Vanessa, are you going to let her talk to me this way?" But Vanessa was staring at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. Was it anger, fear, or maybe finally understanding of what she'd done? "We'll leave." Vanessa said quietly, "Come on, Mom." "Let's go." "I'm not leaving," Carol said, crossing her arms. "I'm not going to be thrown out on the street like some kind of vagrant. I have rights. You have no rights in my house," I said, "and if you're not gone in 1 hour, I'll call the police and have you removed for trespassing." Carol's face went pale, then red. "You wouldn't dare try me." We stared at each other for a long moment, and I saw her recognize something in my eyes. That I wasn't bluffing, that I was completely serious. "Fine." She spat. "Vanessa, help me pack. We're leaving this ungrateful woman's house." She stormed up the stairs. Vanessa followed, but she paused at the bottom step and looked back at me. "I really am sorry, me," she said softly. "I should have asked you first. I know that now. I didn't respond. I was too angry, too hurt, too betrayed to accept her apology yet." Danny lingered by the table. "Mom, please. Don't let it end like this." "How did you think it would end, Danny?" I asked. "Did you think I'd just smile and accept that you helped your wife move her mother into my bedroom without my permission? Did you think I'd be okay with being locked out of my own room?" "I thought you'd be compassionate," he said. "I thought you'd put family first." "I am putting family first," I said. "I'm putting me first." "I'm family too, Danny, or have you forgotten that?" He flinched again, and I saw tears forming in his eyes. "I haven't forgotten." "Then prove it. Prove that you understand what you did wrong. Prove that you respect me and my home. Prove that I'm not just an old woman you can manipulate whenever it's convenient." "You're not, Mom, that's not." "Then what am I, Danny? Because right now I feel like a doormat. I feel like someone you and your wife thought you could walk all over." He opened his mouth to respond, but before he could, there was a loud crash from upstairs. I ran up the stairs, Danny close behind me. When I reached my bedroom, I froze in the doorway. Carol had knocked over my dresser. My jewelry, my real jewelry, including my wedding ring from Richard, my grandmother's pearls, my mother's sapphire earrings, was scattered across the floor. "Oops," Carol said, not sounding sorry at all. "Guess I bumped into it while I was packing." But I could see from the way she was standing, from the defiant look in her eyes, that it hadn't been an accident. She'd done it on purpose. She'd destroyed my things out of spite. I walked calmly into the room, knelt down, and began picking up my jewelry. My hands were shaking, but I forced them to stay steady. Danny came in behind me and started helping. "Mom, I'm so sorry," he murmured as he picked up my grandmother's pearls. I didn't respond. I just kept gathering my precious belongings, checking each piece for damage. The sapphire earrings were fine. The pearls were intact, my wedding ring. I picked it up and held it in my palm, feeling its familiar weight. It was okay. Everything was okay, except it wasn't. Nothing was okay. When I'd gathered all the jewelry, I stood up and placed it carefully in the wooden box Richard had made for me. Then I turned to Carol. "You did that on purpose," I said. "Prove it." She replied with a smirk. Something inside me snapped. Not into anger, but into a cold, crystalline clarity. This woman had come into my home, taken over my space, disrespected me, and now damaged my most precious possessions. And she felt entitled to do it. She felt like she had the right. "You're absolutely right," I said calmly. "I can't prove it. Just like I can't prove that you manipulated your daughter into moving you into my house without my permission. Just like I can't prove that you locked me out of my own bedroom. Just like I can't prove that you've been plotting this for months, probably since your first visit here." Carol's smirk faltered slightly. "But I don't need to prove any of that," I continued, "because this is my house and I want you out. You have 45 minutes now." "Fine," Carol said, grabbing a suitcase and beginning to throw clothes into it. "Vanessa, we're going to a hotel. Your mother-in-law has made it clear we're not welcome here." "That's right," I said. "You're not." Vanessa stood in the corner, tears streaming down her face. "Me, please. My mom doesn't have any money. I can't afford a hotel for more than a night or two. Please, just let her stay in the guest room. I'll make sure she doesn't bother you. No." I said, "The time for compromises is over. If you need help finding resources for your mother's shelters, assistance programs, low-income housing, I'll help you with that. But she is not staying in my house." "Shelters," Carol repeated, her voice rising. "You want me to go to a homeless shelter. I want you to leave," I said simply. Danny touched my arm. "Mom, please." "Isn't there some way, Danny, sweetheart?" I said, turning to look at my son. "I need you to understand something. What happened here today isn't just about a bedroom or some belongings. It's about respect. It's about trust. It's about boundaries. Your wife and her mother crossed every single one of those lines, and you helped them do it. I know, and I'm sorry. I'm sure you are. But sorry isn't enough right now. Right now, I need you to leave with them and think about what you've done. Really think about it. And when you're ready to have an honest conversation about how to rebuild the trust you've broken, then we can talk." He looked at me with such sadness that I almost softened. Almost, but then I remembered the locked door, the violated space, the casual disrespect, and I held firm. "Go, Danny," I said gently. "Take your wife and her mother and go." He nodded slowly, and I could see it. Trying not to cry, "I love you, Mom. I love you too," I said. "That's why this hurts so much." He went to help Vanessa and Carol finish packing. It took them another 30 minutes to gather all of Carol's belongings, and it was shocking how much she'd moved into my room in just 4 days. 3 suitcases, 2 boxes, a garment bag. It was like she'd been planning to live there permanently. They finally carried everything down to Danny's car. I stood at the top of the stairs and watched them go. Carol didn't say goodbye. She just gave me one last venomous look before walking out. Vanessa paused at the door. "I really am sorry, me," she said again. "I never meant to hurt you. But you did hurt me," I replied, "and until you understand why, and until you're ready to make real amends, we don't have anything else to say to each other." She nodded and left. Danny was the last to go. He stopped in the doorway and looked back at me. "I'll call you tomorrow." "If you want," I said, but don't expect me to pick up until I'm ready. Okay, he said quietly, I understand. Then he was gone. I closed the door behind them, locked it, and leaned against it. I waited until I heard Danny's car pull out of the driveway. Then, finally, I allowed myself to cry. But even as I cried, a plan was forming in my mind. Because while Carol and Vanessa might have thought this was over, I knew better. I knew that they'd be back, that they'd try to guilt me or manipulate me or convince Danny to wear me down. I knew that this was just the beginning of a much longer battle, and I needed to be prepared. I wiped my eyes, took a deep breath, and went to my home office. I pulled out my file cabinet and began gathering documents, the deed to my house, my will, my financial records, my phone records showing the lack of communication from Danny and Vanessa over the past few days. I took photos of my bedroom, the changed bedding, the moved furniture, evidence of someone else living in my space. Then I called my lawyer. It was after 9 p.m., but Marcus had been my attorney for 15 years, and he'd given me his cell number for emergencies. This qualified. Me? He answered on the third ring. Is everything all right? No, I said. Marcus, I need your help. I need to protect my house. I told him everything about the unauthorized move-in, about the locked door, about Carol's entitlement and Vanessa's manipulation. He listened without interrupting, and when I finished, he was quiet for a moment. Me, I'm so sorry this happened to you, he finally said, but I'm glad you called. Here's what we're going to do. The next morning, I woke up early and began the process of reclaiming my home. I stripped my bed completely. The sheets that Carol had slept on went straight into the trash. I couldn't bear the thought of washing them and using them again. I scrubbed my bathroom until it gleamed. I opened all the windows to air out the cheap perfume smell. Then I changed all the locks. Marcus had recommended a locksmith he'd used before, and by 10 a.m., a friendly man named Tom was installing new locks on every door in my house. Front door, back door, side door, garage door, all new locks, all new keys. Danny's old keys wouldn't work anymore. It felt necessary, but it also felt sad. I'd given Danny a key to my house when he turned 16. It had been a symbol of trust, of him growing up, of always having a home to come back to. Now I was taking that away, but he'd broken that trust, and trust, once broken, isn't easy to repair. At 11 a.m., my phone rang. It was Danny. I let it go to voicemail. He called again at noon. Again, I didn't answer. At 1 p.m., he sent a text. Mom, please talk to me. Vanessa and I spent the night at a hotel with Carol, and we need to figure out what to do. Can we please come talk to you? I replied, I'm not ready to talk yet. I'll let you know when I am. His response came immediately. Mom, Carol can't afford more than another night or two in a hotel. Please, we need your help. I stared at that message for a long time. Part of me, the part that had spent 30 years being a mother, being supportive, being there for my family, wanted to cave. Wanted to say, yes, come back, we'll figure it out. But another part of me, a part that had been growing stronger since last night, knew that giving in now would only teach them that they could treat me this way, and I'd eventually forgive them. I typed back, that's not my problem to solve. You created this situation, and you need to fix it, without involving my house. I turned off my phone after that. I couldn't handle the inevitable barrage of calls and texts that would follow. The rest of the day, I spent reclaiming my space. I went to the store and bought new bedding, a beautiful sage green set that I'd been eyeing for months but had never bought for myself. I bought new towels for my bathroom. I bought a scented candle that smelled like lavender and vanilla. I bought fresh flowers for my bedroom. When I got home, I made my bed with the new sheets. I arranged the flowers in a vase on my dresser. I lit the candle. I stood in the doorway and looked at my bedroom, my space, my sanctuary, and for the first time since coming home, I felt like it was mine again. That evening, as I was making dinner, there was a knock on my door. I looked through the peephole and saw Vanessa standing there alone. She looked exhausted, her eyes red from crying. I debated not answering, but something made me open the door, though I kept the chain lock engaged. "Me?" Vanessa said, her voice hoarse. "Please, I need to talk to you." "Talk," I said. "Can I come in?" "No." She flinched but nodded. "Okay, I understand. I need you to know that I realize now how wrong I was. How completely, terribly wrong. I should have asked you before moving Mom in. I should have respected your space. I should have. I should have been a better daughter-in-law." I waited, saying nothing. "Mom is staying with a friend tonight," Vanessa continued. "Someone from her old neighborhood who happened to be in town. And Danny and we spent today looking at our budget, and we think we can afford to rent a small studio apartment for Mom. It'll be tight, but we can make it work." "That's good," I said. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Is there any way you can forgive me?" I looked at her through the gap in the door. Truth itself doesn't surrender for anybody, but perpetually I'd also seen her look genuinely sweet and kind during all those Sunday dinners, and that had turned out to be at least partly an act. "I don't know yet," I said honestly. "What you did hurt me deeply, Vanessa. You violated my trust and my home. That's not something I can just get over because you apologized." "I know," she said, tears spilling down her cheeks. "I know, but I'm asking you to try, please. I don't want to lose you and Danny. Danny is heartbroken. He loves you so much, and he's devastated that he hurt you. He should be devastated." I said. "He betrayed his own mother." "I know, and it was mostly my idea, I pushed him into it. I told him it would be fine, that you'd understand. He wanted to ask you first, but I convinced him not to. So if you're going to be angry at someone, be angry at me, not Danny." I studied her face. "Vanessa, I appreciate that you're trying to take the blame, but Danny is a grown man. He made his own choices. He could have said no. He could have insisted on asking me first. He didn't. So yes, I am angry at him. And yes, he has to earn back my trust just like you do." She nodded, wiping her eyes. "What can I do? Tell me what I can do to make this right. Give me time," I said. "Give me space and prove to me through your actions that you've learned from this, that you understand what you did wrong, that you respect me and my boundaries." "I will," she said. "I promise I will. We'll see," I said. She stood there for another moment, as if hoping I'd say something more, something softer. But I didn't. After a few seconds, she nodded and turned to leave. "Vanessa," I called after her. She turned back, hope lighting up her face. "Tell Danny I love him," I said. "But also tell him that he needs to think long and hard about his priorities. About who he's choosing to protect and support. Because right now, it doesn't feel like he's choosing me." Her face fell, but she nodded. "I'll tell him." I closed the door and locked it, all 3 locks including the new deadbolt. I felt exhausted, drained, but I also felt something else, something I hadn't felt in a long time. I felt strong. 3 days passed, 3 days of silence from Danny and Vanessa. 3 days of reclaiming my home, my space, my peace. On the 4th day, there was another knock on my door. This time, when I looked through the peephole, I saw Danny standing there alone. He looked terrible, unshaven, tired, defeated. I opened the door, again with the chain lock engaged. "Mom," he said, and his voice cracked on the word. "Danny," I replied, "can we talk, please?" I studied him for a moment, then unlatched the chain and opened the door fully. "Come in." He stepped inside, and I could see him looking around at the house, his childhood home, as if seeing it with new eyes. "It looks nice," he said quietly. "You've been cleaning. I've been reclaiming," I corrected. We went to the kitchen and sat at the table, the same table where we'd had so many family meals over the years. "Mom, he started, but I held up my hand. "Let me go first," I said. "I've had 3 days to think about this, and I need you to understand some things." He nodded, his eyes on the table. "Danny, when you were born, your father and I made a promise to always put you first, to protect you, to support you, to give you the best life we could. We kept that promise. We sacrificed. Vacations so we could save for your college. We worked extra hours to buy you that car when you turned 17. We helped with your wedding. We helped with your apartment deposit. We have always been there for you. I know, Mom, and I'm so grateful. I'm not finished, I said gently. What I need you to understand is that while we always put you first, we never expected you to walk all over us. We never taught you that it was okay to disrespect us or violate our boundaries. We taught you to be kind, to be considerate, to ask before taking. So when you helped Vanessa move her mother into my bedroom without my permission, it wasn't just a mistake. It was a rejection of everything your father and I tried to teach you. Danny's eyes filled with tears. I know, and I'm so ashamed. Mom, I don't even know how it got to this point. Vanessa was so worried about her mom, and I wanted to help, and it spiraled. Before I knew it, we were moving Carol into your room, and I was telling myself it would be fine, that you'd understand, that it was just temporary. But you knew I'd say no if you asked, I said. That's why you didn't ask? Yes, he admitted. We knew you'd say no, because Carol isn't easy. She's demanding and entitled, and she has this way of making everything about her. And I knew you'd see that right away, and you'd refuse. So we thought if we just did it, if we just presented it as a done deal, you'd accept it. You thought wrong, I said. I know that now. God, Mom, I know. And I'm so sorry. I'm so incredibly sorry. He put his head in his hands, and his shoulders shook with sobs. My instinct was to reach out to comfort him, but I held back. He needed to feel this. He needed to understand the weight of what he'd done. After a moment, he looked up at me with red, swollen eyes. Is there any way you can forgive me? Please, Mom, I can't lose you. You're my mother, and I love you, and I can't stand the thought that I might have ruined our relationship forever. You haven't ruined it forever, I said, but you have damaged it, and it's going to take time and effort to repair. I'll do anything, he said. Anything you need. Just tell me what to do. First, I need you to understand that your wife's mother is not my responsibility. You and Vanessa made the decision to help her, and that's admirable. But the cost of that help cannot be my home, my space, or my peace of mind. I understand. We've already found her a studio apartment. It's small, and it's not in the best area, but it's affordable and it's hers. We signed the lease yesterday. Good, I said. Second, I need you to understand that Vanessa needs to earn back my trust. She violated my home in the worst way, and she did it deliberately and with planning. That's not something I can just forgive overnight. She knows. Danny said. She's devastated. She wants to make it right, but she doesn't know how. She can start by respecting my boundaries, I said, and by understanding that just because she's married to you doesn't mean she has any rights to my home or my possessions. She understands that now, I promise. We'll see. I said, third, and most important, I need you to understand that I'm not just your mother. I'm a person with my own needs, my own space, my own life. And while I love you and I want to support you, I will not be taken advantage of. Not by you, not by Vanessa, not by anyone. I know, Mom, I know. And I swear to you this will never happen again. I looked at my son, my boy, now a man, and I saw genuine remorse in his eyes. I saw understanding. I saw growth. Okay, I said, then we can start to rebuild. He let out a sob of relief and stood up, and I stood too. He wrapped his arms around me, and for the first time in 4 days, I hugged my son back. I love you so much, Mom. He said into my shoulder. I love you too, Danny. Always. We stood there for a long moment, and I felt some of the weight lift from my chest, not all of it. There was still hurt, still betrayal, still anger, but there was also hope. Hope that we could heal, hope that we could move forward. When we finally pulled apart, Danny wiped his eyes. Can I ask you something? Of course. Why did you change the locks? I smiled slightly, because I needed to know that my home was mine. That no one could just walk in whenever they wanted, that I had control over my own space. He nodded slowly. Can I have a new key? I'd been expecting this question, and I'd thought carefully about my answer. Eventually, I said, but not yet. Right now, I need my home to be just mine. When I'm ready, when I feel like the trust has been rebuilt, I'll give you a key. But for now, if you want to visit, you knock and I'll let you in." I could see the hurt flash across his face, but he nodded. "I understand." "I don't like it, but I understand." "Good," I said. We talked for another hour. He told me about the apartment they'd found for Carol, about how Vanessa was working extra shifts to help cover the rent, about how Carol was already complaining about the size and location. He apologized again, multiple times, and I could see that he meant it. When he finally left, he hugged me again at the door. "Sunday dinner," he asked hopefully, "like we used to." I hesitated. "Not this Sunday, but maybe next week." "Let me think about it," he nodded. "Okay, thank you, Mom. Thank you for not giving up on me." "I would never give up on you," I said, "but I also won't let you or anyone else treat me poorly." "Remember that. I will." "I promise." He left, and I closed the door behind him, locking all 3 locks. The weeks that followed were a slow process of healing. Danny called me every day, never pushing, just checking in. Vanessa sent me a card, a real handwritten card apologizing again and promising to do better. She didn't ask to come over. She didn't ask for anything. She just apologized. I appreciated that. After 2 weeks, I agreed to meet them for coffee at a neutral location, a cafe halfway between my house and their apartment. Vanessa looked nervous, but she also looked sincere. "Me," she said as soon as we sat down. "I know I've already apologized, but I need to say it again. I was wrong. I was so focused on helping my mother that I didn't think about how my actions would affect you. And that was selfish and cruel, and I'm so sorry. Thank you." I said, "I appreciate that. I also want you to know that I've been in therapy." She continued, "Individual therapy. Because I realized that my relationship with my mom isn't healthy. She's always made everything about her, and I've always just gone along with it. But what happened with you made me realize that I can't keep doing that. I can't keep sacrificing other people's well-being for my mom's demands. That surprised me. You're in therapy." Yes, Danny suggested it, and I realized he was right. I need help setting boundaries with my mom. I need help understanding why I thought what we did was okay. I felt something soften inside me. "Vanessa, that's really mature of you. I should have done it years ago," she said, "but better late than never, right?" "Right," I agreed. We talked for over an hour. She told me about her childhood, about how Carol had always been demanding, always been the victim, always needed rescuing. She told me how guilty she felt whenever she couldn't fix her mother's problems. She told me how she'd convinced herself that moving Carol into my house was helping everyone, helping her mom, helping their finances, and even helping me by giving me company. "I told myself you'd be happy to have someone else in the house," she admitted. "I told myself you were lonely and that my mom being there would be good for you." But that was just me trying to justify what I knew was wrong. "Yes, it was," I said, "but I'm glad you can see that now." Danny had been quiet during most of this conversation, but now he spoke up. "Mom, I want you to know that things are different now. Vanessa and I had a lot of really hard conversations, and we've set some boundaries with Carol. She's not happy about them, but we're sticking to them." "What kind of boundaries?" I asked. "Well, for one, she can't just call us for money whenever she wants something. We have a budget for how much we can help her each month, and that's it. If she wants more, she has to figure it out herself. And," Vanessa added, "she's not allowed to criticize our choices or make demands about where we live or how we spend our time. If she does, we've agreed that we'll leave or hang up the phone." "That sounds healthy," I said, genuinely impressed. "It's hard," Vanessa admitted. "She fights us on everything. But my therapist says it's necessary if I'm ever going to have a healthy relationship with her, or with anyone." I reached across the table and squeezed her hand. "I'm proud of you for doing that work," she squeezed back, tears in her eyes. "Thank you. That means so much coming from you." After that coffee meeting, things slowly began to return to a new normal, not the old normal. that was gone forever, but a new normal, one with clearer boundaries and more honest communication. 3 weeks after that, I invited Danny and Vanessa over for Sunday dinner. Just the two of them. Carol was not invited, and I made that clear. Vanessa helped me cook. Just like old times, but there was a new respect in the way she treated my kitchen, my space, my home. She asked before opening cabinets. She asked where I wanted things placed. She asked permission. It might seem like small things, but they mattered to me. During dinner, Danny said, "Mom, I have something for you." He pulled out an envelope and handed it to me. Inside was a check for $500. "What's this?" I asked. "It's for the new locks," Danny said, "and for the new bedding and the candle and the flowers and anything else you had to buy because of what we did. We know it doesn't fix what happened, but we wanted to at least cover the financial cost." I stared at the check, surprised and touched. "You didn't have to do this." "Yes, we did." Vanessa said, "It's the least we can do." I folded the check and put it back in the envelope. "Thank you." "Both of you, there's something else," Danny said, and he pulled out a small box. I opened it and found a key, a new key with a little tag attached that read "Me's house, ask first." "This is it, key to your new locks," Danny explained. "You said I could have one eventually, when you were ready. I'm hoping maybe you're ready now, but I want you to know that I will never use this key without asking you first. Never, even in an emergency, I'll call you first. This key is just a symbol. A symbol that you trust me again." I looked at the key, then at my son's hopeful face, then at Vanessa's nervous expression. "Okay," I said, "but you're right. This is a symbol. And if that symbol is ever broken again, if you ever violate my trust or my home again, it's gone forever. Do you understand?" "I understand," Danny said solemnly. "I won't let you down again, Mom." "I promise." I took the key and put it on my keyring, right next to my own keys. It felt right. That was 3 months ago now, and I'm happy to say that things have continued to improve. Danny and Vanessa come for Sunday dinner every week. Carol occasionally joins them, and while she's never apologized to me directly, she's at least civil now. She stays in the living room, doesn't ask to see my bedroom, and leaves when dinner is over without complaint. It's not perfect, but it's progress. I've learned a lot from this experience. I've learned that being kind doesn't mean being a doormat. I've learned that family relationships require boundaries, not just love. I've learned that forgiveness is possible, but it takes time and genuine change. Most importantly, I've learned that my home, my space, my peace of mind, they're not things I should ever apologize for protecting. There were moments during all of this when I wondered if I was being too harsh, when I wondered if I should have just let Carol stay in the guest room, if I should have just accepted what happened and moved on. But every time I had those thoughts, I'd remember how it felt to turn that key and find my own bedroom door locked. I'd remember the disrespect, the entitlement, the betrayal, and I'd know I made the right choice. If you're listening to this and you've been through something similar, if someone has violated your boundaries, disrespected your space, or taken advantage of your kindness, I want you to know that it's okay to stand up for yourself. It's okay to say no. It's okay to protect your peace. You don't owe anyone unlimited access to your life, your home, or your generosity. Not even family, especially not family who won't respect you. Family should lift you up, not tear you down. Family should respect your boundaries, not bulldoze through them. And when family forgets that, it's okay to remind them, firmly, clearly, and without apology. I'm grateful that my story had a relatively happy ending. Danny and Vanessa did the work to earn back my trust. They made real changes. They showed genuine remorse and took concrete action to make things right. Not all stories end that way, and that's okay too. Sometimes protecting yourself means cutting ties, at least for a while. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is establish distance, whatever your situation is. Trust your instincts. Trust that little voice inside you that knows when something isn't right, and trust that you deserve to be treated with respect and dignity, no matter who's doing disrespecting. My home is my sanctuary again. My bedroom is my space again. My relationship with my son is healing, and I sleep soundly every night, knowing that I stood up for myself when it mattered most. That's worth more than any apology, any reconciliation, any temporary peace that comes at the cost of my self-respect. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, I'd love to hear about your experiences in the comments. Have you ever had to set a difficult boundary with family? How did you handle it? What did you learn? Remember, every story has a lesson, and yours might be just beginning, but whatever chapter you're in, know this: you deserve respect, you deserve boundaries, you deserve a home that feels like yours, and never, ever let anyone tell you otherwise. Until next time, this is me, reminding you that kindness without boundaries isn't kindness, it's self-sacrifice, and there's a big difference between the two. Take care of yourselves, and take care of your peace.